Once again, thank you for watching. This is Robin from City Sewing, www.citysewing.com. Here today we have an edge quarter machine just coming for service from one of our customers. He's having an issue with the machine skipping stitches, and also it's not cutting properly. So when he's trying to cut the felt, this knife needs to be in the right position so that when he sews and cut at the same time, you get the right stitching and the right cutting. The reason why this machine came in is because the timing here in relation with the hook and the needle bar was way too low. The needle bar was too low. So the point of the hook was way too high on the needle eyeball. So that's not gonna work properly because the needle hole and the hook has to be just right. I'm gonna show you the details in a few minutes, but right now, the first thing I do, if you come into an issue like this, the first thing you're gonna do is, you're gonna check here. As you're gonna see, we're gonna get the camera closer so you can see better. It's important for me, when I'm trying to do this, I use a piece of paper and I put it behind the hook and the needle position. So I have a better look of it. Now if you see, the hook is just, when the needle start, first of all, the needle cannot touch the bottom part of the hook. If it's touching, it's gonna damage the point of the needle. So it has to clear about a 16th of an inch off from the looper and the needle bar. You have, this is the first step you gotta check into it. After that, once you turn in the wheel, as the needle start coming up as slowly as you can see, the eye of the needle is just a little higher, and then the hook start coming in, passes the needle eyeball, and then it catches the thread. So when you go back and try to do the work, you're always gonna have a good looping. In his case, I already did the adjustments. I'm gonna give you some steps so you could follow up. What happened in his case, this is what was happening. I'm gonna put a piece of board here so you can explain to you easier. This is what was happening in his case. When the needle was down and the hook was coming up, the hook was up here. See that? So what that does is not gonna give you a looping correctly. So you want the needle start coming up, the hook start approaching the needle, when it should be right above the eye of the needle, right over there. That's what you want. You don't want the hook to be up here. You don't want the hook to be below. You want the hook to be here. Now with these machines, it's a little tricky because this hook, as you see here, has a flat part on it. So when you tighten it, that screw that goes inside, you have, once you tighten it, the hook it's set. You cannot, if this would have been round, then you'd be able to move it back. You can make it faster, you can make it slower. But this machine requires to have a flat side so that the hook, because of the speed, doesn't get loose all the time. So that problem right there, what happened in this case was that, like I said, the needle was way too down and the hook was too way fast. Two things you got to take into consideration when you're having an issue like this. The first thing you do is you want to make sure you loosen the needle on the machine here, loosen them up. And once you loosen it up, if you have the right wrench, you could take the needle, usually with a little plier, take it and tap it and make sure the needle's all the way in. Remember, if you do a different adjustment and the needle is not positioned correctly, what's going to happen is that once your needle breaks and you have to replace the needle, you're going to go back to the same issue. You don't want that. You want to make sure that the needle's all the way up first. That's the first step. Needle all the way up. Once the needle's all the way up, make sure that little flat screw inside that little hole here, it's tight, so the hook is tight. You're going to feel the hook is tight. That's the first thing you want to do. The second, make sure the hook is tight. The third thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the needle and the hook are just touching, not pushing either or. They just gotta be completely very sensitive touch. Because if you have the needle far apart from the hook also, if you have the needle very far away from the hook, it's not gonna work. It has to be just touching it. Gently touch, catches, gently touch and catches it. Okay, so to correct this issue, the needle was positioned right, so the customer did have the position right on the needle. The needle was all the way up. Now my hook timing, it's completely right. So now what's the second thing I gotta check into that? I'm gonna go in here. This part here, it's what makes the needle go up and down, as you can see. Makes the needle go up and down, up and down. In this case here, this part here is a bearing. This one here, if you lose that screw here, this big screw, make sure you have a nice thick, heavy screwdriver. You don't want to, break your screwdriver, or you don't want to break that little part. Make sure you have a big one. Loosen them up. Once you lose it, then with this ball that we have here, if I turn it, once this part is loose, if I turn this to the right, the needle's gonna go down. If I turn this to the left, then the needle's gonna go up. So this minus adjustment here, and it's not a lot. It's not a lot adjustment, but 99% of the time, in here you could correct that issue. That's the only other issue or solution that you're gonna have. Loose that screw here. Take a flat screwdriver. Once this is loose, you either turn it to the right or turn it to the left. What you're gonna do, you're gonna be able to do this onto the needle board. So that right there, you will probably 99% of the time you should be able to get the right adjustment. Make sure you loose it up, turn it clockwise, counterclockwise until you get it to the right position where you want to be at. Making sure that you're not hitting the hook. You don't want the point of the needle to hit the hook. You have to be at least a 16th of an inch off from the hook. You don't want to touch it. You want to make sure that the hook needle goes up and down without doing this. Because if you do this, you're going to break the needle, you're going to damage the point of the needle, it's not going to work. So this is very important. Tighten this up and then start taking, making sure that the thread is good. You look at it, take a piece of white paper and put it on the back so you can have a nice clear view. Come here, I'll show you. I could have a better view. Okay, first issue. The second issue he had with this machine, this is an edge cutter. So that means that this machine, besides sewing, it will also cut the felt. Now, he claims that the machine wasn't cutting the felt properly. It was not making a cut. Well, remember, this machine only has one single blade. Doesn't have, usually when you have a blade on the top and blade at the bottom, that makes a cut easier. In this case, this only has one blade on the bottom. What his problem was that he has, let me show you here very close so you can see better. He did have this blade too high, like that. So if you see here carefully, in here there's no edge. You want to make sure that the blade has to go below the edge cutter. Because if you make it too high and there's no edge to it, how is it going to cut? You have to bring the knife, you gotta have the edge has to be in the outside. So when the felt goes through, it takes it and cut it. Then from there you can make adjustment. You can bring it up or you can bring it down depending how much you want to cut. Okay, so we are going to test it out. We're going to put everything back together now, and then we're going to stitch in the machine to see if the machine is okay. It should be 100% right. It should be perfect now because I already did the adjustments. Didn't have to change the hook. I did change a needle. Very important that you change the needle when you have an issue like that, because if you don't change the needle and you have a broken needle or a bent needle, you can't get the timing right. First of all, get a new needle in there. Make sure the needle is all the way up. These needle bars do have a stop inside, so when you put the needle will stop. It's not going to keep going. It will push it. It will stop to the top. Once this is done, then it should be fine. And the machine was also a little tight. I did some adjustment to it, grind it down a little bit in here into the bearing so that it works a little easier. As you can see, it should be turning like this by hand. I'm gonna bring the machine to the table now. I'm gonna see how this sauce. We just finished setting up the machine. We put, just the threading for you, like the thread comes through in the threading pole into the hole here from front to back, into the eyelet, into the second eyelet, third, fourth, in between the disc, important. Then goes into the here, this needle guy, into the needle bar, a thread guy here, another one, and then into the needle from left to right. Now we're gonna put the machine in. Let's see what it works. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it sews and cut what it's meant to do. It's supposed to sew and cut. So we're gonna try it now. Okay, look at this, nice. Sewing beautiful, and it's cutting perfect. Sewing and cutting exactly, a beautiful stitch and everything. Now, that's one thing now. The other thing you have to think of now, some people, let's say, sometimes when you do the folding on the fabric, okay, if you want to cut it felt like this and you want to sew in and cut it, then you have to make sure that once you get it in, then here is that's important. So we're going to start sewing, okay? I'm going to check the back here. I want to make sure the knife, let me take this out so that I could show you. See? This is the back side of it. So now what the machine did, it cut, but like you can see here now, the machine is still, the knife, it's a little bit too high. How? Well, if I look at the felt on the bottom, it has a cut to it. It has a very minor little cut in there. So what you want to do is then, what you need to do in this case, you have to take your flat screwdriver again, and then you will have to bring the knife a little down because it's a little bit too high. So it depends. That's why you have to do your main adjustments, because what happens is if the knife is too high, you're gonna cut on the other side of the felt. So let's try it again to see what happens now. Okay. Now, you see now? Now it's not cutting. So what that means is I went too down. So that's all it is. You have to make sure that you got the proper adjustments. Here we cut too much. Here we cut too much. Here we're not cutting enough. So what you want to do is you want to balance the knife. You want to make sure when you do this sewing and you cut the bottom felt, your second felt here, your actually body, it's clean, doesn't have any marks on it, and that's how you adjust it. You got to bring the knife up or down till you get it right. We can't get it right because we don't know what kind of felt you're using. Are you using the thicker felt? Is it the fine one? You all gonna depend on what size felt you're using. If it's the same felt, if it's fat, it's skinny, it all depends on what kind of felt you're using. It's hard to just guess like that because, like I said, I'm using this kind of felt, but I don't know if this is what you have at home. So remember I told you I wasn't cutting enough. So what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna open up the blade again and just touch them up a bit. Just touch them up just a bit. Now try it again. Try it again because you have to try it before you're going to actually material. You have to try it because there's no guarantee that you're gonna damage your hat if you don't do it right. Now sewing. I'm gonna take it out. Now cuts perfect. You see the cutting here is perfect. The sewing is, the cutting is perfect. Now the other side is completely fine. There's nothing on it. So that means that the adjustments right now, it's perfect for the knife. This one cuts, but it also get into the second one, into the bottom felt. You don't want that. This one here now, it's a clean cut, and then you don't see anything on the other side. All right? This is Robin. Hopefully this is something that you could use it for your on purpose and maybe you could do some benefit out of it. Thank you for watching. City Sewing Machine Corp in New York. City Sewing. Thank you. Bye-bye.